they walk down a narrow alleyway that is crammed with bright jags of colour, strong as tastes. Jess carries the picnic, and Mamma carries Sparrow. He is happy now, and singing to himself, a makey-uppy song. He takes Mamma's face in his hands, and covers it with hundreds of tiny kisses, while she smooths down his curls and murmurs that he is her perfect angel. Jess knows that Sparrow and Mamma are enough for each other, that they don't need her or even Pa. The terrible truth of that makes her sad, but now that she has grown up inside, it doesn't make her angry. She turns around to find Pa, to make sure that he keeps up. He looks cold today, even though the sun has already burned the bony tips of Jess's shoulders. She reaches for his hand, and from very far away he sends a smile. When they get to the beach, Pa leads them past the shacks and the turtles, and the coconut lady and the men selling mangoes, and the girls who braid hair and weave in strands of cotton. Here, the only sounds are the sea and the squawk of some invisible bird, and the scissor song of insects clamouring in the trees. She is glad not to have to play with the children from the yellow house. She is tired of games, and she always seems to lose. Pa paces back and forth, while Mamma spreads the bright orange throw she bartered for at the market. Sparrow clings to her like a little monkey, but she gently unpeels his fingers and kisses him on the head. "Dig us back to England, Sparrow," she says. "Make me a tunnel and let's go." And she mimes shouldering her way into a narrow space. "Keep an eye on him for me, Jess." Down at the water's edge, Sparrow starts to shovel at the wet sand.
"Jess, how long will it take to get back to London? Will it take 5 minutes or 5 hours?
She says it might take 5 weeks, or 2 months, or maybe even a year, now that they don't have the camper van anymore. Sparrow stomps to the water's edge.
"I can dig Mama a tunnel so we can get there in 5 tiny minutes," he says.
Jess thinks you would have to dig through Africa and France and Italy and Greece to get to England, and definitely Turkey, where they sold the van and started taking buses instead. Here, it is so hard to remember things. For 2 whole days she has been trying to recite the stations on the Northern Line, but she keeps getting stuck at Balham. Sparrow is digging, then swishing water at the hole to help it sink and become a tunnel.
"I can't concentrate if you keep splashing me the whole time," Jess says.
He can't believe she's forgotten about the tunnel already.
"You're not helping by flooding it like that," she says.
And then she gets bossy and tells him to shush, that she needs to be able to count. He holds up his fingers and tells her she can count those, but she calls him a silly Billy and says he hasn't got nearly enough fingers. She tells him to fetch shells and pebbles or whatever he can find.
"Is it a mission?"
he asks.
"If you like,"
she says. He goes to the end of the beach, just beneath the cliff, and searches for the roundest stones, the frilliest shells. He fills his bucket, then drags it back and empties them out beside her. "Treasure," she says, and smiles. That makes him feel proud and important, so he collects buckets more. On the last trip, he cuts his toe against something sharp hidden in the sand. A scrap of glass, perhaps. The blood rushes out, and as he walks, the sea washes it away again. He thinks, "Ow, wow," because that's how his own blood makes him feel. But it isn't ow, wow. Not really. On the way back to Jess, his hand goes to sleep. He puts the bucket down so he can twiddle his fingers. He thinks he can hear something in the trees. Maybe it's a lion, because it is definitely hot enough for lions. But he left his sword behind in the dream, and so he hurries on. Jess isn't counting anymore, and she isn't helping with the tunnel either.